Hey y'all, it's Amanda and this is my Texas Zone 8 garden. And before we dive in, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with a fellow gardening friend. Okay, so today we're going to be discussing the truth about resting gardens and gardeners. And we are coming up towards the end of fall, and a lot of my fellow gardening friends up north are definitely very far into their fall. Some are already getting very close to their first freezes. And we're getting to the time of the year where there's rest, where there's off-season time. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about this because this is an area that I struggle with every year for gardening. So really what I want to do is I want to connect us who may feel tired, uninspired, or unsure what to do with your gardens right now. I want to offer practical advice on why we should rest for both plants and people, and why that rest is a vital part of gardening. So if your garden or even you are feeling a little worn out right now, I'm going to tell you something super important. Rest is not a failure. Super important. Write that down. Rest is not a failure. In fact, it might be exactly what your garden and you need. So let me talk a little bit about my current gardening mood. I'm tired. It's been a rough go of it with the heat, but also life. I've been dealing with some grief, just a lot of different things, some injuries, and it's been a lot. And so things feel heavy. They're feeling a little bit lighter now because I have been working to take care of myself the last couple of weeks. And I am starting to get back out in the garden and do just a few tasks at a time, nothing to overwhelm me, nothing huge right now. And that has helped a lot. So my current gardening mood is I kind of just want to wrap things up. Like I'm ready for that cold weather to come through, even though we're looking at 90s for the most of October right now. But I'm ready for the cooler weather to come through. I'm ready for the garden to rest and go to sleep, and then also allow myself to rest as well. I definitely have a level of emotional burnout right now with my garden, and that happens this time every year. Like it really does. Gardening's hard. There's a lot that goes into gardening. It's physical, it's mental, it's emotional. There's so much that goes into it. And then when the rest of life catches up with you and it all compounds, it's a lot. So after months of watering, pruning, battling pests, and filming, for me, I feel like it's normal to feel like I've just run out of steam. And so that's why I want to talk about how gardens and gardeners both need a season of rest. Okay, so what is a resting garden anyway? Like what does that even mean? So a resting garden isn't neglected. It's recovering. I think that's super important. It's important to really kind of look at different things and kind of change your viewpoint on it. So your garden is not neglected, it is recovering. The plants, the soil, and wildlife, they use this time to restore balance in the garden. So beneath the surface, microbial life is still active. So fungi, worms, bacteria, they're all working to decompose everything that has been added and worked into your garden this year. They're decomposing that organic matter and they're rebuilding the soil to a wonderful, healthy level. At this time, trees and perennials slow their energy above ground so that they can send their resources back into their roots, like a plant's version of deep breathing. They're going to let everything go up high and just focus down low underneath the soil, making sure they have what they need to survive this colder resting season that is about to come about. The natural world is designed for cycles just like this. It's designed for cycles of rest and growth. Gardens need this rhythm to stay sustainable and resilient. And just because a garden is resting doesn't mean it's not working. And like I was saying before, just because a garden is resting does not mean it's neglected. At that time, it's just really working towards recovery after a long season of growing and preparing for future seasons. So I feel like sometimes when I talk about this stuff, it sounds like a bunch of emotional mumbo jumbo, which sounds silly to say, but truthfully, when I write these words and I talk about these words, it's reassuring to me. It's giving me a different outlook on my garden. And I think that's something that can be very deceiving, especially for YouTubers like myself, is that it's work, 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 right? Because if I'm not filming, I'm not making money for my family. Like, it's a big deal, right? And it may seem that I'm constantly in my garden, which I am. I spend a lot of time in my garden, but I think it's very important to understand that rest is needed. Even some of my favorite really big YouTubers, they take days off. They take days of rest where they're not necessarily doing hard labor. And I think that is important to know as well. It's important for you to understand that you and your garden deserve the rest after the work of such a hard season. So I like to put Post-it notes on my mirror in my bathroom. It's just little reminders. And so one of them currently up there, it says rest is not failure. So I wanted to be real upfront about that, whether it's about your garden or not. Rest is not failure. Rest is important. Rest is taking the time to take care of yourself and preparing for the future. So I really think that rest is more productive than most people realize. Okay, why gardeners need rest too. It's not just the garden that we were talking about. We're talking about the perennials and the trees and the roots and everything preparing itself for this restful time that also leads to future growth. We need that as gardeners as well. So just like my garden will, I've already hit my wall. My garden hasn't hit its wall yet, but the garden will eventually hit its wall, probably come end of October. I mean, I've already hit my wall, but I want to understand that yes, the garden hits the wall, but I hit the wall as well. And it's very easy to feel guilty that I'm not doing something, that I'm not in the garden working, laboring over something. And I've noticed a lot of comments from other people in regards to that, feeling the guilt about that. And I also want to be very upfront that when I watch other YouTubers, I feel guilt. So if you watch me and you feel guilt that you didn't work in your garden, that is not my goal in life. That is not the goal of my YouTube gardeners. I definitely want to inspire, but don't feel guilt because you're not doing at this exact moment. And if you're someone who associates gardening with productivity and beauty, this whole situation can be pretty hard. And I am someone who typically associates that. Gardening is working hard and making everything look beautiful. Like, that's how I've typically viewed it. But in reality, one of the things I'm really trying to focus on is gardening can be productivity and beautiful, but it also brings me peace. It also allows me to take care of my body and push my body and work my body out. It allows me the time to process thoughts about what's going on in life and the world. It provides all this wonderful support for the wildlife in my community. So there's a lot of other things that gardening can be besides productivity and beauty. And I definitely think I've been doing this YouTube for a lot of years, and since I've been doing the YouTube is when I have been more intense about my gardening. Prior to that, I really like gardening, but I wasn't doing it on a daily or even a weekly basis. And this is my 5th year of YouTube, and I definitely think that this is the first year that I really hit some hard barriers for myself. I really had to deal with, like, the Texas heat just seemed way harsher this August, like harder than it usually is. And it was really hard to pull myself to go outside. I've dealt with injuries. My back has been a problem. And I had recently did that wreath for you guys, that dried hydrangea wreath. And I burned my hands so bad on hot glue. So that was incredibly painful for like a week and a half, which was incredibly rough. I've also dealt with grief with losing my dog, Buffy, which is really hard. And then I'm just dealing with parenthood in general. Life is just so incredibly busy now that I have 2 high schoolers, and it's all just a lot. And I definitely hit a wall dealing with all those things. And it has forced me to take a step back from how I typically would approach my gardening. So one of the things I'm trying to teach myself is that rest isn't about disconnection, right? It's not about completely disconnecting. It's more about connection without pressure. Does that make sense? So what I've been doing the last couple of weeks is when I've been going out in the garden, it's not about pressure. It's not about producing a video. It's not about I have to get this done. It's about I'm ready and I want to go outside to do whatever it is that I want to do in the garden that day. So it's not about hitting like this hard list of things I got to take care of. It's about knowing that that my body and my mind crave being out there, and I want to go out there with no pressure involved. And because I've been forced to slow down the last few weeks, I feel like I've noticed more about my garden. There's some areas that I haven't paid attention to, but there are areas that all of a sudden became extremely important. And every morning when my kids leave for school, whether they're leaving at 6 a.m. for marching band practice or whether I'm taking my youngest to school, I always walk by a portion of my front garden. And during that time, I felt that because I was taking this step back, this rest, and I was choosing just to do gardening when I wanted to do gardening, I felt like all of a sudden I was able to pay attention more. I could smell the soil, especially after, the dew had settled in the early morning. I could hear the sounds of leaves or frogs. So many frogs going on right now in our gardens. I noticed the structure of the seed pods for the dried coneflowers. And there's just all of a sudden, even though that was only, 3 to 5 minutes each day when I'm walking my kids, when I'm walking my kids through their car, I'm just taking that moment to take things in, stepping out to smell a few roses or anything along those lines. So I really felt like this taking it a step back and trying to take the pressure off myself allowed me some enjoyment and joy that I don't typically find when I'm constantly out there working in the garden. And I think sometimes inspiration can come not from working harder, but really allowing space to miss whatever it is you're doing. So like I said, I was waiting for the moments, instead of having this hard checklist that I had to hit, I was waiting for the moments where I just really wanted to go out to the garden, where I missed it, and I really wanted to do something. And I didn't get my Halloween porch done as quickly as I usually do, but I waited for inspiration. I waited for the moment that I was excited about it, and it was better. And then going out and continuing to clean out some of these gardens, I waited until I woke up one morning and I was like, yeah, today's the day I want to go out there. So I think it's super important to allow space to miss your gardening so that it inspires you to go back out there and keep working. Okay, so one of the things I'm very focused on, this is a massive tip for you if you are someone who is learning about resting gardens and resting gardeners. Give yourself permission to walk your garden without an agenda. Just look. Walk your garden without making a checklist. Walk your garden without thinking, oh, I really need to fix that. Walk your garden, observe, look, enjoy. Sorry, I choked up there, not from being upset, but just because I breathed in wrong. Just look. Give yourself permission to just go through the garden with no agenda, no checklist, no worries. Just look and enjoy. And I think that this is something that's very hard for gardeners, because I think a lot of gardeners are very productive people. So it's hard to just go through without an agenda in your garden. But keep it in mind. Give it a try. Force yourself to do that at least once a week. Okay, so we talked about resting gardens. We talked about resting gardeners. We talked about tips for gardeners to allow yourself space, allow yourself a reprieve. But let's talk about some simple ways to let the actual garden rest. So first, mulch and protect the soil. So at this time, you want to add layers of mulch or compost to feed the soil organisms through the winter. This is a very easy way to prep your garden and allow it to rest. Use shredded leaves or pine straw. Both break down slowly and add a ton of nutrients. If you just want to go with a standard mulch, you can totally do that as well. But add in compost, add in mulch, and prep your garden so that it can rest and grow throughout the winter. Leave the mess, at least a little bit of it. Leave the mess behind for winter. Don't rush to clear away every dried stem or leaf. Many pollinators overwinter inside hollow stems or wrapped up in curled leaves, and birds use the seed heads for food. So a slightly messy garden is actually a living habitat. So keep that in mind. You do not have to make your garden perfect for the resting time. Part of the resting time is allowing the garden to be what it is. Stop fertilizing and overwatering. Just stop. take a break. Plants aren't actively growing during a resting garden phase. So forcing them to grow now can stress them out. So let nature balance the moisture through rainfall when possible. Don't feel like you have to be running your sprinklers all the time. My sprinklers, even though we're still hot, are every 2 to 3 days. By the time we get to end of October, they will go every 4 days. And then by the time we hit Thanksgiving, they will go to once a week. So I am not overwatering the garden and forcing the roots to grow. And I'm not continuing to fertilize my garden. I'm adding compost so that it can continue to break down throughout the winter. But allow your garden the opportunity to go without the over-fertilizing and the overwatering and prepare itself to rest. And then the last on this list of simple ways to let the garden rest is to watch instead of work. And we kind of hit on that a little bit earlier. Use this quiet period to observe. Notice where sunlight shifts, what plants held up best through the summer, and where new design ideas might fit in for next year. Just observe, don't do. Just observe, walk through, make a few plans if you want, but observe how things did. Observation is by far the most valuable tool of a gardener. Observation is your most valuable tool, but it requires stillness. It requires rest. Observing a working garden is way harder than observing a garden that is at rest. So we talked about a few simple ways for a resting garden, a few simple ways to let the garden rest. What are a few simple ways to let a gardener rest? Especially for people who like to be productive like me, right? It's hard for me to just be like, and do nothing in my garden. But what are some different tasks that a resting gardener can do to feel productive but also feel restful? So if you're someone who can't sit still, here are a few small, soul-filling tasks for you. Number one, garden journaling. Love my garden journal. It makes me feel productive every time I work in it. I was chatting with patrons the other day, especially my friend Lita, who was telling us that she has a garden journal, but her garden journal is filled with Post-its. So she writes little things on Post-its and it goes in her garden journal, and that's how she collects all her ideas in one. And I love that. I think it's beautiful. So a gardening journal is an opportunity to reflect on what worked, what failed, and what brought you joy throughout the year. And I'm not saying that you have to sit down and work on your gardening journal every day, and it certainly doesn't have to be hours at a time, but just, a quick 2 to 3 minutes to jot down a thought or idea. Whether you're working in a handwritten journal like I do, or whether you're typing up notes on your cell phone, whichever kind of situation works best for you. Jot down dreams for your spring or even sketches of new bed ideas. Just small little things that make you feel productive, but also bring you a restful, peaceful joy. Next on the list is seed sorting and catalog browsing, which is one of my favorite off-season things to do. So pull out your saved seeds, browse through the catalogs, cozy up with a cozy warm blanket and a glass of whatever suits your fancy. And, just spend some time looking, dreaming, looking at the beautiful photos, researching plants, and enjoying that your body is still at rest. Your mind might be dreaming, which I think is also restful. But it allows you the opportunity to dream and feel productive without doing too much. Let this be your dreaming phase. Pick up those catalogs, go through this, and let it be your dreaming phase, not the doing one. The restful gardener is not doing. The restful gardener is dreaming and resting. I guess I just said resting again, but dreaming of the future and preparing for what may be in the next season. Clean and sharpen tools. This is a really easy way to have a peaceful, restful task. Cleaning tools is a meditative, low-stress task that feels productive without physical strain. I have a great video for my Bloom Buddy patrons where they have access to me cleaning tools. That was earlier in the year. I think it was in February. One of my favorite things to do because it's a task where I can start cleaning and I can walk away and then I can come back to it another day and do a little bit more. So it doesn't all have to be done at once. And I really like that. You can even just choose one tool every few days and just focus on that tool and then go on to another. Next on the list is decorate with nature. And this is also something that I love to do. Bring in dried blooms, seed pods, branches, or grasses for simple fall and winter arrangements. This is a really great way to be a restful gardener, but keep incorporating nature within your life. It keeps you connected to the garden's beauty in a softer way because you're enjoying nature's beauty as opposed to working and doing in nature's beauty. All right, and finally on this list is take walks. Walking outside, even if it's not your own garden, like even if it's just around your neighborhood or you go to an arboretum or wherever you want to go, walking outside helps reset your rhythm. Nature heals things very quickly. And one of the things that I've started to do more of is since Buffy passed away, she was not able to do walks very often. But I still have my dog Rookie, and even though he does not enjoy outside, he does enjoy a good walk. And so we have been, and it's been a long time. My husband and I, and then my youngest, we have been going out and taking Rookie for walks, and it rejuvenates the soul. And I'm not even walking through my garden. I'm just walking through the neighborhood, which is especially fun right now because everybody's got their Halloween decorations up. But taking those moments to take the walks allows me to be a restful gardener. Okay, a few more points and then I'll stop all my emotional mumbo jumbo for y'all. Rest is growth in disguise. Super important. I think a lot of times we've been trained that rest is something that makes us weak. We're resting because we're weak, but in reality, it's growth in disguise. You're not doing nothing when you're resting. Your body is recovering. Your mind is recovering, your heart is recovering and moving forward for future growth. So just because your garden looks quiet doesn't mean it's lifeless. Beneath the surface, things are happening. Roots are deepening, soil is healing, and next year's beauty is already being written. And so that's my approach as we're going into the restful garden season. I'm not going to feel sad that the garden, I think, looks lifeless. In reality, I'm trying to look beyond that and realize how much is actually occurring in the garden during this restful period. Maybe the same is true for us. All right, just like we're talking about the garden, it doesn't look lifeless, but beneath the surface, it's working and growing. And maybe the same is true for us. Couldn't get that out. Even when we step away, we're not quitting. We're preparing for our new bloom, our next cycle. And I think that is just a really great way to view things. Okay. Now you heard all the emotional jumbo, emotional stuff about resting gardens and resting gardeners. So comments, I would love for you to drop a comment below. How are you letting your garden or yourself rest this season? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to know how you find peace in your garden's quiet moments. I'd love to hear that. And a lot of y'all had actually advised me over time as you've watched me over the last few years to find those quiet moments. And I am incredibly appreciative. That's why I finally have a place to sit out in the backyard. And that's why I've taken a lot of time lately, it seems like, to observe the pollinators. And I've also really enjoyed my lives with my patrons. That has become a quiet, restful moment to chat with these other gardeners, enjoy each other, learn about each other's lives. And we chat about gardening too, but it's just really become that restful moment that I pretty much seek every week. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is a random video. I would be surprised if this video had like no views. I don't think it's going to show up in the algorithm for anything because it's totally just what's on my mind. But that's literally how I do my videos. I do what's on my mind and what I'm doing in my garden. And there's not a lot of planning ahead. There's tasks that I think about, but there's not a lot of planning ahead on videos. It's literally what I'm stepping out to do that day. And so I kind of keep it very real. So I hope you don't mind that we did some of the emotional stuff today. All right, you all, as always, make sure you like and comment on the video. Every time you like and comment, it helps grow the video and my channel so much. And if you don't feel comfortable leaving a comment, just drop me an emoji below, letting me know that you made it to the end of the video and you say hi. And be sure to check me out, my Patreon community. The link is in the video description below. It's just a great group of people who like to talk about gardening. And we talk about gardening every day, which is really lovely. There's a free tier that you can join in under, and there are additional paid tiers. The higher up you are in your tiers, the more access you get, including exclusive videos, lives, photo sharing, and group chats. As always, she's a mad gardener or a decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.